friends, today we're going to do 5 stars. I have these 5 wooden stars, but guess what? I ended up with 200 of these stars that I got off Facebook Marketplace. I'm going to show you 5 different ways to create these to make beautiful Christmas decor for your home. Let's get started. Here are the stars that I got off Facebook Marketplace. I ended up with about 200 of them because the gentleman I bought them from had purchased a pallet from Target and he had them in there and he couldn't get rid of them. So guess who he unloaded them on? I got a steal of a deal on them, and now I'm going to be creating stars for a very long time. This is the size of them. They are very nice size. They are 11 inches by about 9 inches. They are made of MDF, but they look wooden and they are hefty and they are going to make beautiful DIYs for our future. So let's see what we're going to do with the first one. We're going to start out with some Dixie Belle cotton. It's a beautiful white color, and we're going to paint this one white. I had some cardstock in this color. I afterwards thought a paper bag would have worked really well for this and been much easier to rip when you see what I do with it later. I'm going to take some antique wax. I pulled out my old antique wax I haven't used in a long time, but I love this technique. Brenda from Monner's Market does this all the time, and it's just a beautiful look. Paint it white and just dry brush this over, and don't wipe it off. Don't blend it in, and it just gives it that beautiful wood look. Then on the paper, I'm going to take the IOD, the waltz stamp. I couldn't wait to get my hands on this. Now, this is the first time that I'm using it. And so I'm going to take my fine grit sandpaper and I'm going to gently sand all the new off of it, prime it. Then I'm going to take my black IOD ink and ink up this entire stamp. It's a little daunting. I was just like, get this thing stamped up, hurry, hurry, hurry. But what I have noticed with the new IOD stamps is I feel like they're a little higher off the pad, and I don't have as much to dab and wipe. You see me wiping off the excess here. Either that or I've learned how to stamp better. Let me know if you use IOD stamps and you've gotten some of the newer ones. Let me know what you think. Then I'm just going to position it. You know, I've got to think 3 or 4 times about my positioning, and then I'm just going to lay it down and then don't move it. Hold it down tight with one hand. Do not move it so it doesn't smudge. Now, I have this little hockey puck of a thing. It's called a stamp presser. I get it on Amazon. I believe it's in my Amazon store. If not, shoot me a comment. I'll send you a link. And look how beautiful. Just look how beautiful that makes that paper. Then, of course, we're always going to take a baby wipe or a wet cloth and clean that ink off there because we want to take care of our IOD stamps. I'm going to do the wet and tear method like I do with decoupage paper. Now, this paper is cardstock, so it's a little thicker and it's going to be a little bit more difficult to do that with. So I tried and tried and tried to do that. Then I ended up figuring out that if you wet both sides, it's just not ripping very good for me. So I decided to go around several points of the star and soak both sides and let it sit there for the time that it took me to go around. And then I went back and wet again, and then look how much easier that just ripped right off. So I did the entire star, ribbon all around the edges, and then now we're going to use some Mod Podge and put it all over the back of the star, a generous amount, and we're going to set it aside to dry. As if the star of the show wasn't that beautiful piece of musical paper, I found this little angel in my stash that I got at Dollar Tree a few years ago, and we're just going to put some Dixie Belle iron patina on her and rusty crusty her up to match the look of this DIY. She was cute just like she was, but you know, we got to put a little rusty crusty. So my idea was to just put a little bit in the parts where it would naturally rust, and you'll see that I go back. I'm showing you my mistake here. So what you do with this is you put one coat, let it dry, then you put a second coat of the iron patina, and then you spray the patina spray. They have 3 different colors, I believe. Well, I have 3 of their colors, and I thought I got all of them. They may have more, but there's several different ones if you want, like the yellow rust or the brown rust or the verdigris looking rust. So this is what I chose, but this angel looked like she had the mange. So we're starting over. Let's do it again. So all I'm going to do though is I'm just going to I'm going to give her one coat right now, and then I'm just going to spray it. I didn't do her solid and then let it dry and do her solid again. I hope that makes sense because she already had some on her. So now I'm just taking I sprayed her down with the green, which actually turns brown. And then I'm going to put this yellow all over. And then I like to take my heat gun and move the liquid along. And then I set it outside in the heat. It's still warm in Texas. Yes, it is. And let it, the heat air dry it. Now I'm going to match this up. It's all dry. The Mod Podge is all dry on the back. I'm going to use my little heat press. You can use any kind of iron as long as you don't have steam. And then just press it down, reactivating that Mod Podge to get you a nice, beautiful, smooth, flawless hold on this paper. And you're going to see how beautiful it turns out. I couldn't get all the way up in those edges, but it stuck perfectly. And look at our little angel laying on that musical sheet. She turned out exactly like I wanted. I just thought I could get something like that the first time, and I didn't. So I'm going to use a little bit of that Fix-All glue adhesive from Dollar Tree. It's like kind of like their version of a super glue or E6000. And I'm going to make a little twine bow and put on her neck. Just make it a little rustic. I'm going to take some messy moss, as my friend Brandy calls it. It's Spanish moss, and glue along the bottom there. And super easy. None of this was difficult. All of these DIYs today are easy. I'm going to use my little tabletop vacuum that I adore and get up all the messy. Then I made a little bow with this beautiful crocheted ribbon, and I did a little finger bow. If you want to know how to do a finger bow or a tassel, I have a little video in slow down motion showing you how to do that in my description box. So just going to tie a little piece of twine around the middle and unfray the edges, just spray the edges and glue it there. I made a little hanger on back. I taped it where I wanted it and then glued the little knotted ends down. I doubled it. Then I took a little piece of canvas drop cloth and glued it over the knots just to give it a little bit extra security. Then you see me using that tape to get my crumbs up. This is how she turned out. For this star, we're going to put some little nutcrackers. I have this nutcracker mold I got off of Amazon, and it is by redesigned by Prima, I believe. And it's a fun little mold. And I took my Rust-Oleum 2x flat black paint, the same one I painted the star with, and I took it outside and I sprayed these little guys. You can see one of his little legs didn't get covered good. That's okay. We're going to do another layer of paint, so it's not going to matter. So I'm going to use my Tide Bond Quick and Thick and some hot glue because these little guys, I don't want them moving around, and we're going to put them where we want them. Now, my placement, I should have used a better eye with my placement because I put the little guy on the right and it looks a little lopsided, but it's okay. It still turns out beautiful. I don't know. I don't know if I can pick a favorite today. I really love them all, but and I'm not a gold girl. I spoiled it. We're going to put gold on this. See how that one looks so little? But I absolutely love this one and its simplicity of it. Okay, so we glued them all down, got them all glued down, and then I'm going to take Golden Rule by DIY. This is a great, it's not like rub and buff, it is more like a wax. And so I'm going to take it on my paintbrush, and I've got a fairly good amount on my paintbrush. It's not like you would with paint because a little bit goes a long way. But I'm gonna just brush it over the nutcrackers. Now, I'm not sure if I left the footage in where I wiped over them a little bit and wiped some of that back once it was dry, but I did do that. Once it was dry, I went back with my little cloth and wiped over the tops of them. But I just gave this a light coat where you could still see some of that black through there, and did it front and back and sides. I did those little sides too. You can see how thick the sides of the star is. But I love that that black comes through there. It almost looks like an antique brass or bronze or something. I don't know. I just think it's beautiful. And then I just took this velvet ribbon. I love velvet ribbon almost as much as I love chiffon ribbon. Almost. It's so soft. But I got this on Amazon and I just cut a piece. I actually cut two pieces. You're going to see in a minute. But I cut a piece the length I wanted. See the one on the left? I got it all wonky when I glued it, so I had to cut another piece. But I'm just going to lay the side on the side and then pinch it up. See that? See what I'm doing? And then lay the next piece right down there and pinch it up till it goes to the side. And then I'm going to make sure it's all pressed down in the glue good. And then I'm going to put a little glue up the sides. Oh, you're going to see it in a minute. There we go, up the sides. And then I'm going to kind of turn the sides in a little bit, like that. And then so it hangs right. That's what I didn't do with the first one, and it was all wonky. So this is very simple but elegant and just beautiful. My mom gave me this little jar of acrylic paint, and it is so beautiful and so smooth and so creamy and dried so fast. Beautiful. You're going to be seeing me use this a lot. It was left over from, I think, probably some of my dad's little crafts he did in his little craft room. He did things like reloading shells and stuff like that, and with guns and stuff. So he needed something silver. I also had this little deer in my stash that I picked up. Probably it looks like a Joann's quality, and I'm just sanding I cut that little hook off, and I'm just sanding the front down so it'll adhere. It will soak up this dark and decrepit by DIY really nicely. I'm just going to use one of those little yellow sponge daubers to apply it and just rub it into that wood grain. I'm going to go with the grain so that it goes into the grain and looks so pretty, so easy. I am wearing gloves because it is hard to get this off my hands. My hands are so dry. Then I'm going to take a little bit of white paint and very lightly with an old chippy stencil brush, just dry around the edges. Then everything's all dry. And we're going to take this beautiful little deer and glue it down to our star. Of course, using our hot glue and our quick dry. Set him right in the middle. Just a little piece of greenery from my box of greenery pieces. Never throw a piece of greenery away. This was probably two little pieces that someone would have thrown away. Not me. We're keeping every little piece. Drop a comment below and let me know, do you keep every little piece of greenery and twig and bead and bauble? Yes, because look, we need it. So I'm going to take these little blue picks, blueberries. They're not blueberries. They're little blue, but whatever you want to call them. You call them whatever you want to. But I'm cutting them off. I got them at Hobby Lobby after Christmas last year. And then this beautiful birch wood ribbon. I got this at Sam's last year. They don't have it this year. I've checked the ribbon this year. They do have some beautiful ribbon this year. But don't snooze on the ribbon at Sam's. You get a big, huge roll for like $7. And I use it for years and years and years. And you can share with your friends. And it's just a really good deal. This ribbon's really pretty. It's very thick, but easy to work with. And It's wired. It's got a little tiny bit of glitter to it, but the glitter's not falling everywhere. It's just a really nice ribbon. And so I'm just going to make a bow. I showed you how I made that bow. And I'm just going to glue it to the top. Then I thought I was done, but I was like, oh, I want to put a little bit of, it looks snowy and wintry. So I wanted to put a little bit of snow on the tops of these. So I thought if I just, my white DIY paint was super thick. So I thought, well, I can just glob it on there. You know, put big globs of it and it'll look like snow. Yeah, no, it didn't. So I ended up getting some glitter, some white glitter, and putting it on there. Well, I do not like glitter, y'all. It gets everywhere. But I took one for the team to make it beautiful. And this is what I didn't have any of that flake snow, that fake flake snow. But anyway, this turned out absolutely beautiful.
I just want to pop in to say I hope that you're enjoying this video. If you're new to my channel, welcome. You're watching Late Night Creations. My name is Kendra. We are so glad that you joined us. Now, let's get back to creating these stars.
I took this star outside and spray painted it with some rose gold spray paint. It is absolutely shiny and beautiful. And we're going to use the paint inlay La Folie, and it is from the Christmas collection of 2025. And I chose this page. They're all beautiful, beautiful colors in here. And I'm going to trim all my pieces very close to the image. You get a much better result if you do this. Trust me. Just ask me how I know. And then I got all the images cut how I wanted them, and I placed them on my project how I wanted them. And now I'm just taking them off and laying them out on my table so I don't forget how I wanted them, how I was supposed to put them back on there. So I'm just going to use some Big Top sealer as my medium to adhere it. So I spray it all down, painted side up. I'm putting this on the painted side to reactivate that paint a little bit while I put a coat of this Big Top sealer on this project. But watch, because this is like it's a sealed project, which should work, right? But that Big Top was just beating up. It was not having it. It was just moving around, beating up. I couldn't get it to adhere. So what I did was I just let that dry. I just put as much on there as I could. A thin coat is what I did. Got it to stick as well as I could. Dried it, and then I put another coat. And then that gave me a good base to work with. So once that was dry, then I put another coat. So essentially it was 3 coats. Okay. So on the third coat is when okay, this was my second coat. Then I set it aside to dry. And now I'm going to start over again. Now that by this time this was dry, so we're going to try again. We're going to re-wet these. And we're going to use our Big Top sealer again. And then now it's going to lay on top of there just like we need it to. Because that paint is going to lay, we're called paint inlays, so we're going to lay that paint in that Big Top sealer. It's going to dry in there and it's going to stay in there forever and ever and ever. So now it's wet. I'm being very careful because it has got wet paint on it. So I'm going to place it where I want it. Once you put it down, that's where it needs to stay. You cannot pick it up and move it because that wet paint is already touched your project. So you have to think that through carefully. Now, I got a little much of the Big Top, so you're going to see me kind of getting it out of the corners. It was a little much. It was kind of pooling. Okay, then I'm just placing all my pieces down. This is not rocket science. We're just going to place them down, and then I'm going to take that little piece of a dry cloth, or if you can use a paper towel, a shop towel, whatever you have, whatever you use, and just pat it dry. Pat all the excess moisture off. Now I'm just making sure that there's plenty of that Big Top sealer in the corners to put those little corner pieces in. Pat it dry. I'm not sure why I decided to leave all this footage in, but maybe it's fun to watch. I don't know. Anyway, I did speed it way up. There you get my little head in there for free. Okay, then we're going to set that aside to dry. And you can see it turns white when it's dry. And then we're going to wet it down again. And we're going to let it set for just a few seconds. And then we're going to pat all that water off. We're going to pat it off, pat it off, pat it off, get it nice, dry. And then we're going to take our tweezers. We're going to pull up and hope and hope and hope. And it worked out good. So I'm going to show you this one up close, how beautiful it looks on there. And then very quickly, we're going to rip all these off. I thought I sped it up even faster than this. Sorry, guys. But look at that. I love the peel and reveal. Never gets old with these. I absolutely love them. You can also save the inlays and reuse them. You just don't get as much ink out of them the second time. Okay, I drilled a hole in the top of this. It broke. I glued it, and I didn't like the chiffon ribbon in there. I've tried to make a hanger. I just didn't like it. So I made a bow. Didn't like that either. Can you believe I didn't like some chiffon ribbon? Well, I didn't. So I used the ribbon that I got from Sam's Club this year and absolutely love this little green plaid bow that I popped up on top. So let me know what you think. I have these tiny little chunky wooden trees I got at the Creative Thistle reuse store. It's a crafting thrift store in my town, and a little tiny piece of a tree limb. I painted that with juniper by DIY Cottage Colors, but I'm really leaning toward aviary because it will lend better to my ribbon colors. You let me know what you think. The star itself, I used Dark and Decrepit as a stain like I did on the deer in the earlier project. Well, guess what, folks? My Avery is all dried up. This is one of the downfalls to DIY paints. I love them. You know that I use them all the time. But yeah, it's like clay in there because it's clay based. I have heard that you can reconstitute it, so let's give it a try. I poured some water in there. I shook it up and shook it up and shook it up and shook it up. Then I took a spoon and I tried to stir it up. I tried a lot of things, and this is the best I got. Now, after I let it sit a while, it may go ahead and dissolve a little bit more. I'm not quite sure, but this is what I got. So I'm going to use what I have because I love this color and I don't have another jar of it. So I'm going to put a little piece of that clay in my lid and with some water, and I'm going to do 2 coats, and it works. So all is not wasted. This paint is too expensive not to use all the crumbs. So that's what we're going to do. So I just did 2 coats, sides and top. I did not paint the backs of them because it's going to be glued down. Okay, then I dried them all good. Then I took Monet's Garden by DIY. It's a darker green with a fan brush and just did a little bit of dry brushing around the edges to give them definition. I just thought that they looked a little too plain and boring. So I got some on this brush, and then I just love the way that it just fans it in, this thing. And then I decided it needed a little bit, like, I don't know what I was thinking. The moment hit me, and I just started dabbing in there like happy little branches. Okay, I'm not going to show you all of them, but I guess I needed to show you my favorite ones, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I just dabbed like where the branches would be, maybe, or where the layers of the branches would be. Then I took some white and just dabbed on there like it would be snowy branches. It's a flocked tree, friends. It's a flocked tree. Okay, and then we're going to glue them in a tree-shaped manner. And okay, don't come at me, but I got it crooked. Oh, first we're going to seal them with clear wax. And I'm not showing you all of them because it went quick, but you don't need to see all that. So I did use this little brush, little makeup brush, and wiped it on. So I worked at this and worked at this and still got it crooked. So I don't know. It's just it's just what happens sometimes with handmade items, right? So it's a little too far to the left. I can already see it right here. And then, I don't know, maybe the star was a little bit crooked too. You know, they're not always perfect either. So, but I definitely, when I started gluing them down, got off somewhere. Because here they look even. But once I started gluing them down, and then I decided that that was too much glue. And then they slid around a little bit too much. I thought, maybe I don't need that much glue. So I started using less glue, and it dried super duper fast. Like by the time I got down to the next row, those were already dry. So that's the way to go. Less of this type bond sometimes is better, especially wood to wood. Okay, that one was a little crooked. By the time I went to straighten it up, it was already dry. I'm telling you, this stuff quick and thick is what I'm talking about. So here's where I think I might realize, I don't know, you'll be able to tell when I realize that it's crooked, and I start trying to straighten them up, and it's too late because they're already stuck. I didn't even use hot glue. And then, yeah. Maybe it was right here because I laid that last one down and it was closer to the edge than the other one. And I start trying to move them, and yeah, I can't move that row up above. They're stuck like Chuck. Then I'm just going to glue the little trunk down, put a bow on it, and call it done. Super simple, super rustic, and I love it. Let me know which of these is your favorite.
Thank you, friends, so much for joining in today, creating all these beautiful star and DIYs. If you liked this video, be sure and give it a thumbs up. Make sure that you're subscribed. Leave a comment down below. You know the drill. I want to chat with you in the comments. But most of all, I want you to remember to be still and know that He is God.